Alabama's WVUA News at 10 with your award-winning news team. John Huddleston, weather with Richard Scott, and sports with Gary Harris.
Good evening. It's been an ongoing battle between property owners, land developers, and nearby residents to decide what to build on the corner of Hargrove Road and 2nd Avenue East. Land developer Stan Pate is trying to build a high-density apartment complex on the land. In tonight's top story, WVUA's Travis Leader talks to people that live near the area and gets their perspective on whether Pate's plan is a good fit.
Thomas Nix has property bordering the proposed site of a 600-plus person apartment complex. And because of contemporary site plans, he's fine with having students living right beyond his backyard.
We're going to have students in this area for sure. And we're going to have lots of them, plenty of them, because of the proximity to the property and the University of Alabama.
But residents like Gary Limross say students aren't the issue. He lives within walking distance of the property and says any new complex would take away from the neighborhood atmosphere. In fact, Limross says even students have signed petitions against the proposed plan.
That's why they moved to that area, is because they wanted a quiet kind of neighborhood environment. They didn't want a 4-story, high-density, high-rise with the noise and the traffic that goes along with it.
But Nick says these types of apartments will actually help clear up cluttered neighborhoods littered with cars.
Some of the complaints I've heard is all the parking on the streets and all the parking in the front yards and that sort of thing. And that's hard to control, very hard. And there's a lot of that going on. And if you build something like this back here, we'll have controlled parking.
Many in the area, though, are voicing their concerns about the increased traffic on Hargrove Road.
City engineers have told us that to have a development that size would need a dedicated left-hand turn lane. The city isn't planning to pay for that. They don't have the funds for that.
Nix feels it's unfair for the property owners to be told what they can or cannot do with their land.
I feel like his rights are being somewhat abused by this issue, yes. I think everybody has a right to sell their property.
You don't have a right necessarily to sell it at the highest dollar you can get at the expense of devaluing your neighbors, not only their property monetarily, but also, more importantly, their quality of life.
Reporting in Tuscaloosa, Travis Leader, WVUA News.
Developer Stan Pate wants the Tuscaloosa City Council to allow 4-story structures on the land. Pate declined our request for an on-camera interview. The issue was going to be brought up at last night's council meeting, but was tabled for 3 weeks. Both sides are currently in the midst of mediation. In other news tonight, Tuscaloosa's Rosedale Court is undergoing a major transformation. What was once an empty lot is now becoming new homes very quickly. Last March, work began to rebuild the public housing community after half of it was destroyed by the April 27th tornado. Officials say the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development set Rosedale as a top priority. And Rosedale is not the only tornado-ravaged area showing signs of progress. Hurricane Creek in Tuscaloosa is also improving, but like everywhere, there is still work to be done. Members of the community are coming together to sponsor a contest that will benefit residents and, in the process, help rid the creek of some of the debris. WVUA's Courtney Highfield with a story of how one man's trash is another man's treasure.
At 5:15, it was all gone.
When the tornado went through the community of Holt on April 27th, it devastated over a 2-mile stretch of Hurricane Creek.
You know, aside from the human tragedy of that tornado, we lost our entire canopy here. All of the old growth trees were gone. That was a very devastating blow, not only to us as a community, but to the creek as an ecosystem.
Because of all the trees that are still there, members of Friends for Hurricane Creek are partnering with the Kentuck Museum of Art to hold a contest that will benefit the community and the creek. Artists are invited to visit the creek, take a piece of wood, and create something with the debris.
I said, you know what, artists use this wood, and we looked at the wood and thought about it and realized maybe we should offer this to artists. And that's kind of how it started.
At first glance, this creek doesn't look like much, but as Wayden said, you can take any piece of debris or wood lying around and make something beautiful out of it.
That's what I'm talking about. I see art in that.
Reporting in Tuscaloosa, Courtney Highfield, WVUA News.
Finished entries can be submitted anytime between now and September 1st. All entries will be displayed at the Kentuck Art Center from September 6th through the 30th. Now, if you have tornado debris lying around your property and you want it removed without having to pay for it, there is a deadline approaching that you need to take note of. The city is ending their final push June 1st. After that date, you will no longer be able to request to have your debris removed for free. The city will then identify properties as nuisances and give the property owner a 7-day notice to clean the debris themselves. If the property owner does not meet those demands, then the city will gain right of entry and clean it up at the expense of the owner. On your home team education watch tonight, Alberta Elementary's recovery. Parents have the chance this week to voice input on the rebuilding of the school. Now, according to school officials, a public meeting is set for this Thursday night at the Boys and Girls Club in Alberta City. School spokesperson Leslie Bruinton says there has been low attendance at the previous meetings, and by moving to this location, the hope is more parents will be able to attend. Again, that meeting set for this Thursday at the Boys and Girls Club of West Alabama near the J.C. Park in Alberta City. It starts at 6 p.m. With stormy weather in the forecast for the next few days, let's get a first check on Alabama's home team forecast. Here's Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott.
Hey John, good Wednesday evening to you. Watching a little rain on Home Team Interactive Radar right now. Most of this activity over Sumter, Greene, and portions of Hale County, Marengo County. Light to moderate right now. Nothing overly heavy out there. These shower storms are weakening tonight, and that trend will continue. Much of the area rain-free. Mainly, it looks like east of Highway 69, rain-free tonight, and north of Highway 82. Shower storms happening today, moving in from the northwest towards the south and east. And some of those did become severe this afternoon, producing some wind damage across portions of Sumter County, close to Livingston. But other than that, we're just seeing a few shower storms out there today. Temperatures tomorrow top out around 89 degrees by 4 o'clock, a hot day. Also, a good bet for showered storms could happen after lunch, and some risk of severe weather. We'll talk about the damaging wind threat tomorrow, plus some large hailstones. Your forecast is coming up.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Like you heard Richard say, Alabama is feeling hot, hot, hot right now. It's that time of year for those grueling summertime temperatures, and health experts warn if you're not careful, it can be dangerous. Experts say it doesn't take very long to become overheated. Dr. Jeremy Pepper at DCH Regional Medical Center tells us getting your body used to the heat isn't a one-day process. He says the time it takes to become acclimated depends on a couple of things.
Yeah, some people are going to acclimate a lot better than others. And whether it's based on genetics or just the experiences you've had in the past, it's going to be easier for them to acclimate. You'll have some people that will acclimate very quickly over several days, but in general, the general rule of thumb is 2 to 3 weeks for most people.
Dr. Pepper also recommends work morning and evening, avoid the hottest part of the day, and drink a glass of water before any strenuous activity, and stay calm or stay away from sugary drinks. Well, on your election watch, Mitt Romney has enough delegates to capture the Republican presidential nomination. This comes after his win in Texas primary last night. But what does this mean for the Republican presidential campaign in Alabama? Will voters still support the GOP with Romney at the helm, despite casting their votes in the primary for Rick Santorum? WVUA's Taylor Sanders has more.
Republicans desperately want a Republican in office, no matter who it is, really, and as long as it's not Obama, they'll vote for whoever that person is.
Political analyst Dr. Richard Fording's views are shared by many. For a state that's largely been Republican since the 60s, a win for the GOP wouldn't be surprising. Some political analysts wonder what role, if any, Mitt Romney's Mormon values will play in the race.
Election is not based on race and it's not based on religion primarily. It is based on a candidate's political values and moral values which line up with Scripture.
And although Romney wasn't the first choice for Alabama, Pastor Larry Corder with Alberta Baptist Church says voters will vote for the Republican candidate regardless, because when it comes down to it, it's a matter of traditional political Southern values.
The biggest factor that Alabama became Republican was really, it was a lot of the moral issues, family, pro-life, those type things. People just began to change because they felt so strongly about those issues, and obviously church and religion are very important.